Business Analyst Interview Questions. My name is Richard Kirshner with the Simplilearn team. Get certified, get ahead. We'll go over some beginner, intermediate, and advanced level questions to expect in interviews when you're looking at business analytics. Let's start with the differentiation between a risk and an issue. And this should be a very fundamental question dealing with business, because in business they want to make money, and we really want to understand where the split is on a lot of these things. So always ask yourself, where is the bottom dollar on this, and what does this mean? Risk is your potential, and an issue is something that's actually happening. So risk is a potential problem that can be predicted. Risk may or may not happen in the future. A proactive response plan is formulated and kept ready to mitigate risks. So these are things you plan for. And the issue refers to a risk that is occurring or about to happen. There is no response plan in place to solve an issue. You can only respond reactively to an issue. What are the various tools a business analyst works on? This is very company specific. And so when you start looking for work, you start going in for interviews, you should start really asking yourself, what are these companies looking for that I'm interested in? Clearly, if you work with IBM, you want to have your tools that are central to IBM and the IBM setup. Same thing with Google, with just across the whole field. Some of the more basic ones, obviously an Excel spreadsheet, which isn't on this list, but your Python, your SQL, you should really know your SQL, because it's going to come up in no matter what format you're in. Your Tableau, your Azure, your Balsamic, all these are different platforms. There's a lot more out there, but you should be aware on which platforms your proficiencies are on, and those also that you might not be proficient on, but you at least know what they do and what their performance is, so you can answer questions. And a lot of companies will pay for you to be certified if their platform isn't on your list. What are the various stages of a business project? And we look at project initiation, project planning, project execution, project control and monitoring, project closure. And it's really important to understand any one of these in a little bit more detail than just knowing the list. What is feasibility study? A feasibility study is a method of gauging the success rate of proposed business solution. It enables business analysts to discover new business opportunities. And really, a lot of businesses, when they're looking at it for a business analyst, this is really what they want to know. What's the feasibility? That is a very central question that comes up in most business plans. What's the feasibility of doing something and getting it done? What is business model analysis? Business model analysis is a technique that helps you analyze if a business is financially, economically, and socially viable or not. I know a number of contractors that this is their sole career, is to go in and analyze ski resorts in Colorado to find out whether it's going to make it this year or not and what they need to do to fix that. So it's a very high-end job niche where you really need to know your stuff and understand what it means. What do you understand by requirement? Differentiate between requirements and needs. We look at requirements. A requirement is a targeted solution that is required to achieve the set business objectives. Business requirements are data used for business processes. Needs. Needs are the high-level representation of the terms and the result. Business needs include identifying and comprehending the business's goals and articulating its strategic direction. And you can think of needs are, what do we need to succeed? Requirements are, well, these are the things we need to put into place. This is what's required to achieve a business objective. Suppose you have been given a list of zip PIN codes from different countries. Using those codes, find the city and the state names using Excel. And so if you're given a list of zip codes, PIN codes of various cities from the US and India, here's how you can find the city and the country names. Select all the codes. Go to the Data tab under Data Types, select Geography, click on the Insert Data option, choosing City from the field list. Click on the Insert Data option and select State from the field list. really you do need to know your way around Excel. No matter what other packages you're working with, Excel is such a base package in business analysis. So much people are given that back and forth still. It's still kind of a baseline. Below are sales data that has information on different items sold across various regions and countries. What was the total revenue generated for all the items in India? You can use the sum if function to find the total revenue generated from India. You can see here equals sum if, and then of course B2 to B100 India, L2 to L1001, and that will give you the sum. You can also use a filter option to filter the data only for India and use subtotal by pressing Alt plus equals. Nice short hotkey to remember there. Create a highlight table to visualize the revenue generated from offline and online sales for different items across the region using Tableau. Now, not all companies use Tableau, but it is becoming a very highly used tool because it's so easy to use. You drag the region onto columns, drag the sales channel and item type fields onto rows, select the total revenue column and drag it onto color and label cards. Select square as the mark type. Drag the total revenue field onto columns, drag the total profit column onto rows, place item type column onto colors. Under the size card, place the total profit. Drag the region column into the filters card and select Asia. So one of the things about Tableau is it looks real complicated, but it's all drag and drop. And so you should know your way around about doing some very simple drag and drops for doing your query and summation. And below is the resulted plot. So let's look at some more questions, but let's jump to a little more intermediate level. Differentiate between software development lifecycle and project lifecycle. So we're looking a little bit more hierarchical towards the top of the list. Software development lifecycle helps with the development of software products. It consists of a single software across multiple phases. Here phases include requirement gathering, coding, operations, maintenance, and documentation. Where the project lifecycle, this enables you to develop a new product in the business. Project lifecycle consists of multiple software in one customer scenario. Phases here are idea generation, screening, development, testing, and analysis. How do you perform risk management in your project? So again, we're dealing with intermediate, not just how to pull tables across. We want to start analyzing things. And the risk management is a technique wherein risks are identified, avoided, reduced, assessed, and mitigated. Having the appropriate risk management plan decreases losses and optimizes decision making to enhance the organization's performance. How does risk mitigation differ from risk avoidance? Risk mitigation. Risk mitigation is a plan to be executed when a risk occurs. When a risk occurs, there might be a business impact and the cost incurred is high. Risk avoidance, whereas risk avoidance is carried out to avoid the risk from occurring. Meanwhile, the business impact here is zero and the cost is fully eliminated. And you can think about a brick and mortar store and they have shoplifting. You want to mitigate you want to avoid as much shoplifting as you can. But you can only frisk people at the door and have security so much before you start losing customers. And so when you mitigate it, you're going to have to pay for your lost merchandise. Where you avoid it, you have your security cameras and people watching to stop people from stealing things. Risk in this case can mean loss of money spent, badly spent on equipment, certifications. There's all kinds of areas where you want to mitigate and avoid risk. What are project deliverables? Project deliverables represent a collection of measurable services and goods that are to be delivered to the end user in the project completion stage. This is so important when we start talking about any of our, when you sign a contract, any of our online contracts, cloud computing, all of that, make sure you're very clear what the deliverables are, who owns it, who is the responsibility of the service, and the security around it. Those are all very important questions to know. Differentiate between the Agile and Waterfall model. Two of our biggest or most basic models used today. The Agile model, which is slowly taken over, especially in software. The Agile model is adaptable to requirement changes and has an incremental approach. In the Agile model, testing can be performed in every phase. With the waterfall model is referred as a structured software development methodology. Changes in requirements are difficult to implement. Meanwhile, in the waterfall model, testing is performed only in the final phase. And you can look at this as a lot of the software today has to be ready to change quickly, where in the waterfall setup, you're not looking for fast changes, you're looking for a very solid, it's going to work no matter what kind of view. This is something that we can build. It isn't going to have to make major changes, but it better work correctly. Describe the different analytical techniques like Moscow and SWOT. Moscow analysis, it is a prioritization technique that highlights a requirement's significance. Questions like, is it a must-have or a should-have? Could the demand be made better? Would a specific idea be useful in the future? Are asked here. In the SWOT analysis, it discovers the strengths and weaknesses of a firm and evaluates them as opportunities and threats. SWOT analysis consists of strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And you can kind of think of it as like the SWAT team coming in you're worried about threats here, so we're talking about policing. Or in Moscow, really what can we get out of this? Is this, do we have to have it to succeed? Is it going to be useful in the future? So you're looking more for a general value attached to it. List various components of strategy analysis. For developing a strategic plan for an organization, the vital components are vision, objectives, mission, strategies, action plan. What is benchmarking? Benchmarking is a process of evaluating an organization's measures, like the quality of policies, programs, etc., against the standard criteria. It's so important to have that baseline of what are you measuring against. The baseline might not even be a very good one, but you can't measure something unless you have something to measure it against. It helps with the measuring the performance of the company. You can recognize the areas of improvement in a company and analyze how other companies achieve other objectives. What is the best approach to work with difficult stakeholders? A business analyst interacts with many professionals during his work. Few of the best approaches to take into consideration while working with difficult stakeholders are. Before I even jump into this, I have a friend who is working with some very high-end individuals who took their private plane, and he was supposed to meet them at the location. When he arrived, they had been in a fist fight while on their private plane. The stakeholders had so much difficulty with some particular aspect going on. So difficulties are going to arise, hopefully not at that level, but things happen. And of course you want to just work with anybody, but you want to listen patiently to the stakeholder's point of view, respond to them politely and diplomatically, have a one-on-one discussion to make things more precise, comprehend their worries and be transparent. Make sure to continuously engage such difficult stakeholders. And I'm going to highlight the last one, because if you're working with somebody who's difficult and you just try to ignore them, one of the things is that whatever problems are arising, they're just going to explode. So that is so important not to ignore somebody who's being difficult. But the rest of it is stay focused. Stay focused on what you're trying to accomplish. Be goal-driven. This is a great time to be goal-driven, not driven by emotion or the problems that arise or how the person communicates. Name the different types of Agile methodologies. Scrum. You can go get Scrum certified. Important thing to look into if you haven't. Learn software development and extreme programming. XP. Feature-driven development. FDD. Crystal. Kanban. Dynamic Systems Development Method. DSDM.
If getting your learning started is half the battle, what if you could do that for free? Visit SkillUp by Simplilearn. Click on the link in the description to know more.
There is in Agile just a ton of different methodologies. So knowing at least a few of them inside and out and having a kind of a general idea that the other ones are out there is important, so you at least know what we're talking about when someone comes up and talks about Agile. Describe the gap analysis. Gap analysis refers to the analysis of differences between the existing system's functionalities and the targeted system. The gap indicates the amount of work required to get the intended result. Gap analysis is a comparison between the current and proposed functionalities. And you can see here we put together an action plan to go from the current state to the desired state. How do you import text file data into MS Excel? And remember, Excel is one of those things that has been around forever, and even though it's like the bottom barrel of a lot of analysis that we do, most of our data starts in an Excel spreadsheet, or a comma-separated variable file that you then end up with an Excel spreadsheet. Given below is the employee text file. It has information about name, age, and company. And here's how you can import this data into Excel. Go to the Data tab, click on Get Data drop-down. Under From Files, select Text CSV. Select where the text file is located in your system and click on Import. Click on Load Data Imported into Excel. You've been given sales data that has information on the sale of different items across the world. Below is the data. Create a pivot table to analyze the profit of all the items in each region. Now remember, a pivot table is a table of statistics that summarizes the data of a more extensive table. So it takes a full data sheet, and we're going to zoom in on something. That's what the pivot table means. And if we want to go ahead and do this, what we do is we go ahead and select a cell in the table, go to Insert, and click on Pivot Table. In the Create Pivot Table box, choose Existing Worksheet to place your pivot table. Drag region and item type onto rows, drag total profit onto values, sort the sum of the total profit column. Using the sales table, find the percentage contribution of cosmetics to the total revenue and total profit. Create a pivot table by dragging item type onto rows. Select the revenue and profit column under values. Right-click on the revenue value under Show Value As. Select percentage of grand total. Right-click on a profit value under Show Value As. Choose percentage of grand total. And you can see here when we do that, we end up with cosmetics made a 14.03% contributions to the total revenue and an 18.94% contribution to the total profit. How do you create a dual axis chart in Tableau? Drag the order data onto columns and convert it into continuous year. Drag total revenue onto rows and total profit to the right corner of the view until you see the light green rectangle. Synchronize the right axes by right-clicking on the profit axis. Under the marks card, change sum total revenue to bar and sum total profit to line, and adjust the size and color. They're lots of fun to play with as you start getting into these. Using the sales data, create a view to show the total units sold and the profit generated from each item. Which item sold the least and has the least profit? So we'll go ahead and load an Excel file data in Tableau Desktop. Drag units sold onto columns and item type column onto rows. Place the total profit column under Couleur and choose the desired color palette. Sort the units sold axes in descending order. And you can see here it produces a very quick bug figure, shows the fruit sold and the least and had the least amount of profit. Create a map to show the units sold and the profit generated from different Middle East and North Africa items. Drag country onto the detail card. Place the total profit column under size. Drag units sold under color. In the filters card, drag the region column and select Middle East and North Africa. Bahrain had the maximum number of units sold. At the same time, Iran made the full amount of profit. Create a visualization to analyze the total revenue and the units sold for clothes, meat, and baby food across different regions in 2006 and 2017. Drag the units sold field on the columns, drag the region and item type fields onto rows. Under the Couleur card, place a total revenue column, drag item type onto filters and choose clothes, meat, and baby food. Drag the order date column onto filters and select 2016 and 2017. Meat had the highest units sold and made the maximum profit. Now with any of these Tableau, it's good if you have your own hands-on for this. That's an important thing to note. We kind of zoomed in on Tableau. Again, there's a lot of other companies out there using a lot of other packages. So if you're not familiar with Tableau, but you're able to do this in another package, that's a good thing. So at least you know what we're talking about and you've had that hands-on. Let's go ahead and jump to some advanced level questions. What is requirement prioritization? Name the different techniques used for it. Requirements prioritization focuses on allocating requirements depending on the business urgencies. This is essential for the project to run well. Requirement prioritization enables various teams to understand what is important and work in sync with the business needs. There are several techniques used for requirement prioritization. We had Moscow technique, we mentioned that earlier. The requirements are grouped based on must, mandatory, should, high priority, could, not necessary but preferred, and would, suggested for the future. Ranking method. Here you give each requirement a distinct numerical value based on its importance. And of course, this is at 100. Well, here's kind of similar to ranking is the $100 method. Multiple stakeholders get a notional $100 to distribute among the requirements. So the $100 method is pretty similar to what the ranking method is. Top 10 requirements. In this approach, from a large set, the stakeholders simply pick their top 10 requirements. This is very popular. There's a lot of help books out there about getting things done. They say write everything that you want to accomplish, put them on 3x5 cards, and narrow it down to 5. Do those 5, because once you've conquered those 5, then you can move on to the next ones. Name the critical Agile metrics that should be considered by a business analyst. Sprint burn down. So the sprint burn down is the chart we use when you're tracking. Usually it's in Scrum, is where that usually comes from, the Scrum setup. But it's a chart of the work to be completed and what's still going on. You have your work category allocation, the velocity, the cumulative flow diagram, defect removal awareness, time coverage, defect resolution time. Explain BPMN. BPMN, Business Process Model and Notation. Gateway controls the flow of interaction and sequence of processes. It is a flowchart technique which models the end-to-end business process step. The 4 essential elements of BPMN are flow objects, events, activities, gateways; connecting objects, sequence, messages, associations; swim lanes, pool or lane; artifacts, data object, group annotation. List the elicitation techniques. The elicitation process is about gathering requirements from users and stakeholders. Listed below are a few techniques that are used to collaborate with users or clients. Interviews. I don't know how many times I've been on the phone calling competition, potential clients to ask questions. So one of the elicitation techniques is to ask questions. If you're going to call clients to ask questions, it can a lot of times also turn into additional sales. Document analysis, focus group, prototyping, brainstorming. My favorite, brainstorming. All these are important. I just kind of highlight a few of them that I tend to get stuck in. Observations and workshops. Again, workshops are a great sales technique also. So as you're doing your business analysis and you're bringing people into a workshop and do observations in the workshop and working specifically with these people, they turn into potential business growth. I tell you what, if you're a shareholder and someone's doing a business analysis and they turn around and generate a $30,000 sale for your company, they're in. You know, you've already earned your pay, and you're doing what you like, which is business analysis. Interface analysis, questionnaire and survey. Questionnaire and survey is my least favorite, but they are the most popular because they're the easiest to pump out. List the documents needed by a business analyst. Initiation document, project vision document, use cases, system requirements, specifications document, business requirement document, requirements traceability matrix, functional requirement document, use case specifications document, gap analyst document. Describe how you would approach a project. Here's a basic project approach outline which you can use with respect to different situations. Identifying the project goal, formulating the work plan, defining the requirements, collaborating with other teams, tracking the project, documenting the progress. And really, when you start designing your project approach, encompassing all the things listed in here is so important with the shareholders. It's great if you can identify your project goal, and that's probably the most important thing, because if you don't have a goal, you might as well walk away. But if you don't have the rest, well, how are you formulating the work plan, defining the requirements, collaborating with other teams? That is such a big step because we're going from everything being on paper and trying to figure out what you're going to do to actually doing it, and then tracking, and finally documenting. Very important for the shareholders and what goes back to the top. Differentiate an alternate flow and exception flow in a use case diagram from a basic flow. Basic flow represents the operation of activities as required by the company. In a use case, alternate flow, as the name suggests, is an alternate solution used in a system failure case. Different steps are used to complete the goals of a use cases. Exception flow refers to the various steps executed in case of errors. This does not lead to achieving the required goal of a use case. Critical aspects of creating analytical reporting. Analytical reporting is a type of business reporting which provides data analysis, information, and recommendations. It enables people to use data to make decisions. To create analytical reporting, the following points should be kept in mind. Comprehend business analysis. Display your analysis skills. Think critically. And I'm going to throw in here the term from big data, map and reduce. Really, when we're doing a business analysis, you don't want to give them a massive amount of information. You want to reduce it down to something that they can see in a single graph, a very simple set of notes, and you need to think critically. You need to really make it, what is it that the shareholders want that's going to make them understand why this is important to the business, and what does the business get out of it? What is Kanban? Kanban helps Agile teams in visually managing work through processes. It works as a scheduling system in Agile just-in-time production. The Kanban methodology is all about real-time communication of capacity and full transparency of work. The Kanban board describes the current development status. And of course, when you're working with Kanban, you got to be very careful about inspiring versus coaching versus micromanaging. It really can end up in a micromanaging setup where you want to watch out for that, but you also need to track everything. A basic Kanban board has 3-step workflow. It has the to-do, in progress, and done. However, depending on a team size, structure, and objectives, the workflow can be mapped to meet any particular team's unique process. State the key differences between BRD and SRS. BRD, Business Requirements Documents, is a high-level functional specification of software. BRD is a formal document to describe the requirement provided by the client. Business analysts create this post their interaction with the clients. SRS, System Requirement Specification, is a high-level functional and technical specification of software. SRS describes the software's functions and non-functional requirements that are needed to be developed, whereas SRS is created by the systems architects. What is Pareto analysis? The Pareto analysis helps in crucial decision making. It helps in prioritizing decisions, identifying the most relevant and the least decision concerning the overall goal. It is also known as the 80-20 rule. As per this rule, 80% of the project's benefit arises from 20% of the work. Vice versa, 80% of the case problem can be due to 20% of the causes. Differentiate between the V model and the fish model. When we talk about the V model, it is an SDLC model where the execution of processes happens sequentially in a V shape. At every stage, the same person reviews, but other testers will do software testing in the last step. V model consumes less time and cost. The fish model is similar to the V model, but with more multiple verification teams. Every stage is tested by another team for completeness and correctness. The fish model is comparatively very costly and time-consuming, which makes sense because if you have multiple tests on each stage for multiple teams, they have to all be spun up on it, and so you're literally more than doubling the work because you also have to track all that. Given the sales data, create a chart to show each region's country that made the highest revenue. Create a pivot table by dragging the region and country onto rows. Place the total revenue column under values. Right-click on the country value, select the filter options, and choose Top 10. Choose Top 1 as shown above and click on OK. And you can see here is the pivot table that you will get. Using the sales data, find all the countries where the total units of fruits sold offline were less than 3,000. You need to use an advanced filter option in Microsoft Excel to solve this problem. Below is a critical based on the question we have. Go to the Data tab, select Advanced Filter option, choose Copy to another location, give your criteria range and the copy to location. Click on OK. Here's the final result as we can see below. Let's create a pivot table to find which countries from each region made the lowest amount profit. Create a pivot table by dragging the region and the country into rows. Place the profit column under values. Right-click on any country value, select the filter option and choose Top 10. Choose Bottom 1 and click on OK. And then let's create a filled map to analyze the total revenue and profit generated from beverages in North America using Tableau. Drag country onto detail card, place the total revenue column under the text, drag total profit under couleur. In the filters card, drag the region column and select North America. In the filters card, drag the item type column and select beverages. And you can see from the below map, you can see that Greenland and the maximum revenue and profit generated from beverages in North America. Who knew? Using Tableau, how will you display the top 5 and bottom 5 items based on profit? Drag the item type field onto rows and total profit onto columns. Right-click on the item type column to create a set. Give a name to the set and select the top tab to choose the top 5 items by sum total profit. Create a set for the bottom 5 items by sum total profit. Select both the sets, right-click to create a combined set. Give a name to the set and choose all members in both sets. Drag the new set on the filters and the total profit onto couleur. The above graph depicts the cosmetics made the highest profit while fruits made the lowest. And really, when we're talking about tools like Tableau, or if you're targeting companies working in R, or you're targeting companies working in Python, you should be able to quickly do these kind of displays in any of those packages that you're focused on. Tableau is one of the biggest ones out there right now because it is a paid-for service, but it's also very robust and easy to use and uses less programming on the back end. So just a quick side note on there, roll your sleeves up. If this does not look right to you, you're not able to get through some of these things, make sure you are if that's what you're targeting in a company for an interview. So thank you for joining us today. Simplilearn, get certified, get ahead. For more information, please visit www.simplilearn.com.
Hi there, if you like this video, subscribe to the Simplilearn YouTube channel and click here to watch similar videos. To nerd up and get certified, click here.